Welcome to another edition of Ask Isaiah. It's your host Isaiah Rhodes, and already we've had our first domino fall in the 2018 NBA playoffs. The Portland Trailblazers have been swept by the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, prior to this series, many believed that this particular series would go either way, evenly matched to a certain degree. The best player in the series would be Anthony Davis, but with the perimeter prowess of Portland, many believe Portland would be favored or it would go back and forth. I was of the opinion that Portland would win in seven due to the fact that they had home court advantage, but that was null and void when Portland gave up home court advantage in the first two games of the series. New Orleans just played an outstanding game. Three of the four games went down to the wire, but it was game three that really blew the doors off this series when New Orleans defeated Portland 119 to 102 in a game that wasn't as close as the score would indicate. Anthony Davis played outstanding. In the closeout game, he had 47 points and 11 rebounds, 15 of 24 from the floor. But what really pushed the series over the top for New Orleans was the guard play of Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo. Many consider Rajon Rondo an exceptional player, but in many other cases, he's been malcontent, depending on who you ask, in certain on certain teams that he's been to. But when it comes to playoff time, Rajon Rondo always elevates his game to a high level. And I think that in this particular series, his defensive prowess and his playmaking ability really put New Orleans in a position to dominate in terms of dominating the pace of play and putting Anthony Davis and Nikola Mirotic in position to dominate. I mentioned Mirotic in game two and how well he played in game three. He had a 30-point performance, 19 of those really put New Orleans in a position to just get easy opportunities for Anthony Davis later. His ability to score down the stretch on the pick and pop really challenged Nurkic. And Al-Farouq Amino couldn't guard him on the inside. There were multiple plays where Anthony Davis got offensive putbacks over Ed Davis, Al-Farouq Amino, Nurkic, and just the fact that Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum struggled for the majority of the series. Portland was at a standstill in a variety of ways. So for Alvin Gentry, he'll be moving on to the second round where potentially he will face the Golden State Warriors. For Golden State, they were a game away from sweeping San Antonio, and our condolences go out to Greg Popovich and his family during this time. His wife passed away. His wife of 40 years passed away recently, and he has chosen to step away from the team in these last two games. He won't coach Game 4, and he didn't coach Game 3 against Golden State. Obviously, there's things bigger than basketball at this point, so we have to send our regards to Greg Popovich in that regard. But for the matchup of New Orleans and Golden State, I think what New Orleans showed the world, especially in defending C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard, is that they can get up and guard on the perimeter. And I think that particular matchup prepared them for Golden State and how Golden State plays. Now you're going to play a lesser version of Stephen Curry when he returns. He will be back very soon. They said he'll be reevaluated in a week or so, and his rehab has intensified, and he has gotten spot activity and practice at this point. So he should be returning soon. But to what degree Stephen is at his peak ability will remain to be seen. With that said, if he's in a lesser version of himself, Kevin Durant will have to carry a much heavier load. Klay Thompson will have to play his game, but he'll have to take on more responsibility. And Draymond Green will have to be much more of a facilitator for lesser players, as you have other players on the Warriors that are dealing with injuries as well. I think with the fact that Alvin Gentry was an assistant coach on Golden State when they won their first championship in 2015, that lends itself to the personnel and schematics that he can help New Orleans prepare for. All of that being said, you still have to play the game, so it'll be difficult for New Orleans to beat them. But I think because of their confidence and how well they played against Portland, they will have a puncher's chance. And with the home court advantage that I saw from New Orleans, over this past series against Portland, they can steal some games on the road. And if that's the case in Golden State, when they go back to New Orleans, anything can happen. So I want to give a huge congratulations to Anthony Davis, who, as a star player, as a potential superstar player in this game, he's won his first playoff series in dominant fashion, sweeping Portland, a player who in turn in the past got swept by Golden State in 2015. For him to, salvage a series and move on in the future, I think the sky's the limit for this MVP candidate. And for Alvin Gentry, I think it's fitting that he's been able to, salvage this season with all the injuries that's happened to DeMarcus Cousins and really change the dynamics of their team. For him to get a first-round win and potentially battle against his former team, I think that's exceptional as well. So we should be on the lookout for a great series, and we have to prepare for who's going to match up against them in the future rounds. You have Golden State potentially moving on to the second round. Philadelphia advanced, is one game away from advancing. They're up 3-1 on Miami in a tough series. Ben Simmons just recorded the 5th triple-double by a rookie in NBA history. 17 points, 15 rebounds, 12 assists. No, 12 rebounds and 15 assists, excuse me. The return of Joel Embiid has provided a huge spark for Philadelphia in his defensive play. In Game 3, he scored 23 points in 30 minutes. Today, he didn't score as much, but his defensive presence inside really changed the trajectory of turning shots down the stretch of the fourth quarter. Dwayne Wade had a game-high 25 points in Game 4, but it was too little too late because the other players, such as Justice Winslow and Josh Richardson and a myriad of other players, Wayne Ellington, really struggled down the stretch. So a lot of the offensive responsibility was placed on Wade. He stepped up to the challenge, but the execution of Philadelphia down the stretch, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric, Ilyasova's offensive rebounding, J.J. Redick's ability to shoot off the dribble, move off the ball and create shots off the dribble really opened up things for Philadelphia. And they're one game away from moving on to the second round, their first playoff series win potentially since 2012. So we'll have to see how this young team can close out a series. They always say it's very, very tough to close out a series, as it was evident for New Orleans and Portland. Portland was down by as many as 17, but fought back valiantly in the fourth, got it down to within 1. But it's very difficult to close out a series. So if Philadelphia can do so, they'll move on to the second round, where they'll potentially play Boston and Milwaukee. Milwaukee has won a game yesterday. Great performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Great additional performances from Jabari Parker and Middleton. Don Maker put on a defensive performance that really challenged Boston. And I think for Milwaukee, they have to really rely on home court advantage, because what Boston has shown in Boston is that they can execute down the stretch. Terry Rozier is not afraid of the moment. He's been playing exceptionally well and has outplayed Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe has to play much better if Milwaukee's going to have a chance at winning this series. If you have the best player in the series, you're always going to have a shot. Giannis Antetokounmpo played much better in game 3, made 4 3-pointers, which really opened up the game offensively for Milwaukee. But overall, he has to play much better in terms of creating for others, because they really struggle to find offense if it's not in a fast break. So that particular series is up for grabs as well. You have a 2-1 series in Washington and Toronto. Washington just won their first home game of the series, so they always say the series doesn't start till the road team wins. That series hasn't started yet. For Cleveland and Indiana, Cleveland is down 2-1. They blew a 17-point lead against Indiana, and for Bogdan Bogdanovic to play except the way that he did with 30 points and really, hitting 7 3-pointers and challenging LeBron defensively. He didn't stop him, but he challenged him. That changed the trajectory of that game as well. To be up by 17 and then in the second half only scored 33 points. Half of those points came from LeBron himself. So Cleveland has to adjust to what Indiana is bringing. They're really pushing tempo, being assertive, being aggressive. And as great as LeBron played in Game 2, scoring 46 points, Indiana was still a shot away from tying the game in the latter seconds of the game. So Indiana's playing exceptionally well. That series is gonna go down to the wire, I think. And I think it is gonna take a Herculean performance from LeBron to 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 even think about winning that series and moving on to the second round. For Oklahoma City and Utah, that series is tied 1-1. Game 3 is tonight at 10:30. For me, I think what Donovan Mitchell has done this season has been exceptional. My pick for Rookie of the Year is Ben Simmons. But Donovan Mitchell as the premier feature offensive option on the team that's really just a defensive team, for him to play the way that he's played as a rookie, to outscore Michael Jordan in his first 2 playoff games, 55-53, to be in the conversation with the GOAT in terms of playoff scoring in any stretch is amazing. And I think for Utah to match up against this big 3 in Oklahoma City, it's they say styles make fights. And I think for Oklahoma City, they're top heavy. They have 3 of the top 4 players in the series. And depending on who you ask, they might have 4 if you want to throw Steven Adams in there. But for Donovan Mitchell to play the way that he's played and the way that Utah moves the basketball, the way they play schematically in terms of working inside out with Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors, the way they crash the offensive glass is really a challenge for Oklahoma City. So every game, despite being the more talented team, they will be pushed to the brink. And I think for Oklahoma City, they go through these stretches where they aren't consistent in terms of managing turnovers. And when you give Utah a team who's offensively challenged, if it's not for Donovan Mitchell, if you give them easy opportunities to get baskets on a fast break, it gives them a rhythm. Now that rhythm in turn will open up shooting confidence for Ricky Rubio or Donovan Mitchell and Joe Ingles. So those things lend itself to carelessness on Oklahoma City side. If Oklahoma City manages turnovers and are just able to play their game, they should win convincingly. But the inconsistencies that Oklahoma City has shown throughout this season, whether it be turnovers or just inconsistency shooting, a lot of that lends itself to Paul George and Russell Westbrook from game to game, depending on their rhythm. If that inconsistency shows up at any stretch during this series or in any games, as we saw in Game 2, then Utah will win the games. So that's why that particular series will be evenly matched. With that said, this is Ask Isaiah. The playoffs are here in full effect. I will continuously provide analysis of every series and break down key games and key matchups going forward. This is Ask Isaiah. Follow me on Twitter at Ask Isaiah. Follow me on Instagram at Ask Isaiah. Facebook, Isaiah Rhodes. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Over and out. Peace.